How to never get friend-zoned again. If you want to have great second dates, not just good first dates, you have to learn to create a man-to-woman connection. In this video, you're going to get practical tips on how to improve your communication with women in a romantic way to create some masculine and feminine polarization and to convey romantic intent appropriately and in a calibrated fashion. The first lever that you have, and there's 3 of them, is mindset. You have to understand that society has taught you that masculinity is bad. You've suppressed your masculinity in a lot of ways. Masculinity is absolutely not bad. Masculinity is amazing. But immature masculinity, controlling, selfish masculinity, that is a problem. Just like selfish femininity is a problem. Just like immature anything is a problem. Being masculine, being grounded, and I'm going to go into more detail what that means in a couple of minutes, is absolutely vital for her to feel alive. If she wants to feel attracted to you, she's supposed to feel attracted to you, she has to be in her feminine. Now, in order for her to be in her feminine, you have to show up in your masculine. So the first thing is an understanding and a recognition and a realization, and actually just you remembering that it's not just okay, but actually required to step into your masculine self. And that manifests itself in a lot of different ways. That doesn't mean that you have to get neck tattoos. My brother has neck tattoos. That will never be me, Jesus. But it does mean, and now we get into it, becoming more grounded, confident, comfortable with who you are, decisive, disagreeable when necessary, and not afraid to walk away. Having a masculine presence, a strong frame, is absolutely vital. That's the first component, mindset. The second lever, if you will, is verbal. If you want women to stay interested in you, then they have to realize that you're romantically interested in them, and they also have to feel that from their side. I'm so scared that I'm going to fall down here if this balcony gives in, that I'm absolutely done. That's why I'm moving a little bit. So use tools that we have available to ourselves as men to create that man-to-woman connection. It won't just happen by itself. And she won't do it for you. 19 out of 20, 49 out of 50 women won't do it for you. It is your responsibility as a man to create that man-to-woman connection. One of the first tools you have available to yourself is compliments. Most men don't use nearly enough compliments. During the approach, you can give her at least 1 or 2 compliments. And then over the course of an hour, 2, 3 date, you can give her a couple of compliments as well. Let's say 1 per hour, 2 per hour. There's no formula, but it shouldn't be 10 compliments in an hour, and it shouldn't be 0. So there's some common sense to it. Now you might be asking, what kind of compliments am I supposed to give her? Whatever is authentic and calibrated. Imagine 2 circles. On this hand, you have authenticity. And then on the other hand, you have effectiveness and relatability. Because can we as men be so authentic that we're not relatable anymore? Yeah, absolutely. Can men also be so relatable and effective in their communication that they're not authentic anymore? Yes. So where these 2 circles overlap, right in the middle, that is where the magic happens. So what's a compliment you can give her? I like your eyes. I like your posture. Or, for example, something more situational specific. She tells us she goes to the gym. That's actually awesome. That's really cool. And they give her a little fist bump. Also builds a little bit of physicality, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute. The next lever, by the way. So that is a fantastic compliment. You have to genuinely feel it. Now, you might say, is it not just a line? Well, there are only so many compliments you can give her. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. At some point, the list is exhausted and they're going to repeat themselves. But just because something repeats itself, that does not mean that it's not authentic. So ask yourself, what is a unique and authentic compliment I could give her in the moment? Another one is, I was going to say, I like your toes. But that is something that you probably should only say if you have enough meta-level awareness to bring irony and humor in it. There's certain things, there's a lot of things you can say on a date that women would actually get really excited by that you can't imagine yet. And you probably think, I could never say that. Yeah, absolutely you can. But it needs a lot of calibration. So toe jokes, which is hilarious, is something you absolutely shouldn't make if you don't have enough experience. And even if you, I'm personally not into that, but I know people who are. And I'm not just saying a friend, right? No, I actually am not. And if I was, I totally own it. Even if you happen to be into shit like that, then don't say that, obviously. But you could give her a compliment and say, you dress a lot better than most girls around here. That's really cool. You have amazing energy. You have really beautiful energy. You have awesome eyes. You have a really unique smile. These are good compliments. Now you have to feel them and you can write them down. You can prepare them. Okay, these are compliments. These are things I really like in women. And if I see that, then I can compliment that. That's the first tool. The next thing you can use is playful teasing. Some people say negging is a bad thing, negging somebody. We tease each other. What happens when we tease each other? Men tease each other all the time. Teasing implies a sense of pre-existing relationship. If you tease one another, it means, well, there must be trust. Otherwise, we wouldn't be teasing one another because you don't tease people that you've just met where there's no formal connection yet. So teasing each other doesn't just spike emotions in the moment in a positive way or a slightly playful negative emotional spikes, but it also creates a sense of comfort. And by the way, you can use that in other environments as well. Teasing each other. Now, you do have to be aware that there are some women and some men who have it as an unconscious rule of theirs that to feel respected, they can never be teased. Or that being teased means to be humiliated. The reason my voice is so screwed is because I was at a Tony Robbins seminar a couple of days ago, which was amazing, by the way. I went there 6 years ago already, been studying Tony's works and many people's other works, many other great people's works for many years. And while I was at the seminar, there was actually a lady that we were doing some group exercises and we were writing down our beliefs and our values and the rules that we have in order to meet these values. So for example, what is a value that I have? One of her values was to never be humiliated. Her number one value, away from value, the thing she was trying to avoid the most, the emotional stage she was trying to avoid the most was humiliation. And she didn't even realize that one of the rules she had was anytime somebody teases me, I feel humiliated. And if you're not aware of that, then people get triggered and you might hurt somebody. Now, this is something for her to sort out and she completely changed her values and she changed her rules and now she's probably a lot more comfortable with it. But most people don't do the inner work. Now, little side note, little gold nugget here. You don't necessarily need a woman who's into personal development. You can have a woman as your life partner or girlfriend who is into personal development, or you can just have somebody who's naturally so happy and secure within herself that she doesn't need it. That's also true. So this lady had that rule. Now, in general, I do recommend that if people react very negatively to a calibrated tease, they're insecure and you don't want to be in a relationship with that person. You don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who is so insecure that they get upset. Now, this woman is very secure in other ways. And she's amazing. She's a mother of 2 children, very independent, awesome in a lot of ways. She just had a couple of rules that weren't serving her, that weren't working too well for her anymore. So she rewired some of them. That being said, coming back to the original subject, teasing is a wonderful tool. Now, what you can never tease her for is things she can't change. In other words, her physical appearance. Never ever tease women about their physical appearance because you don't know what insecurities they have. Even if she comes across very confident, I'm telling you, she's gonna have some insecurities around it. The next thing you can do to create a man-to-woman connection is to misinterpret. You can use misinterpretation in a playful way. She says something and you misinterpret it in a slightly sexual, playful, romantic way. Now, really important, you don't wanna be weird with that. You don't want to prematurely escalate. It has to be very, very calibrated. The best misinterpretation is actually by not saying anything. She says something that could be misinterpreted. Hey, let's go have a ginger shot. And you just look at her and like, that's all you have to do. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't mean it. Instead of you having to say, you mean a ginger shot? No. You can just say it like this. Sometimes less is more. Now, you can misinterpret in an outright spoken verbal way, but that requires some nuance. Another way to create a man-to-woman connection is to simply talk about dating-related things. Talk about adventures you may have had. Now, you don't need to go too intimate and talk about women you've dated, but you can talk in a general sense. And then look, if you're not comfortable talking about your preferences, talking about dating or intimate subjects with her, not necessarily on the first date, even though that can absolutely be the case, why should she think that you're comfortable with the subject matter at all? Now, it's not a prerequisite. None of these are a prerequisite, But the more we use of these tools in an intelligent way, the higher the probability that will create a man-to-woman connection. The last lever you have to create a man-to-woman connection is to simply build physical contact. You want to be extremely respectful and comfortable. You want to make sure that she's comfortable. You want to be respectful. Obviously, you want to have a sense of comfort within yourself, but you always want to make sure that she is comfortable. And if she ever isn't, you back off, you create space, and you leave her alone. How can you start creating a man-to-woman connection on the date? We talked about that earlier already. You can give her a fist bump. That's one. You can give her a high five. Then you can touch the outside of her arm with the back of your hand for 2 seconds while you're talking. Like, so yeah, anyway, you were saying earlier, but just very non-invasive. And then the next one is maybe you touch her leg. Never the inside of her leg, by the way, while you're in the bar. If you're both at home later together and it's consensual and she's comfortable, then obviously that's no problem. But again, it has to be calibrated. And then at some point you're on the date, you can even go for a hug. And there's a couple of steps that you can build in between. But then in the end, the ultimate peak of physical escalation, of building a man-to-woman connection physically, is obviously the kiss. And the reason the kiss is important, it's not even so much for you, but it's more emotionally impactful. The probability that she will show up on the date is heavily impacted by how emotionally engaged she was on the date. And do you think she's more or less emotionally engaged after she kissed you? A lot more. Emotions go up. And the probability she'll meet you for a second date, if it was enjoyable, obviously, is a lot higher. So how do you actually go for the kiss? Well, eventually you just go for it, but you just go for it so slowly that you can always back out. If you want a little pre-frame, then you can just say, hey, I like your hair. And then you touch her hair like this. If she ever, at any point, the fist bump, the high five, the hug, at any point in time where you go for the kiss, or the hair, if she ever like micro expression backs out a little bit, if she's ever uncomfortable, if you're not receiving a positive signal, you stop immediately. Now, if you then go to this, say, I like your hair, and you get a neutral or a positive reaction, then you can just go for the kiss. It's extremely important that you do kiss her on the first date, or at least that you make the offer, because the first kiss is only ever an offer. She decides whether she takes you up on it or not. But if you don't make the offer, she won't make it. You have to go for the kiss on the first date. It's extremely important. When you put these things into practice, you're gonna have a lot more successful dates. This obviously goes a lot deeper than a 10-minute video. And if you want me to help you personally find the right girlfriend or wife, click the link below and apply for a free initial consultation where we'll map out a plan for your situation, where you're at, your challenges, what you actually want, what type of a woman you want to have by your side, and we'll see if we can help you. Put these tips into practice. Trust me, they're going to help you. Take care.